We're no strangers to travel to far-off places when automotive adventure calls, because sometimes you've got to go the extra mile to get the job done. So we are back in Japan, but this time we've split up and headed to different ends of the country because we are working on 2 builds at the same time. And while I was on a train in the middle of nowhere completing one of the missions, Marty was in the countryside completing another one, blowing apart a car that we bought off the internet sight unseen with a bunch of our MCM mates. And it must have been hard and thirsty work because he ended up in a karaoke bar in Osaka with our mate Dave, about to get a call that will send him to the other side of the world.
Linus, sorry I couldn't hear you. I was in a bar.
Hey, Marty, how's it going?
Good, I'm in Japan.
See, here's the thing. I've got an engine in mind, and I'm wondering, will it fit my Honda?
Yeah, I mean, it might.
Well, do you remember how you offered to help us?
Yes, I remember that.
Well, we're doing it this week. Are you in?
Yeah, I guess I'm in, but I might need to bring some help.
Well, that's fine. We're starting tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Yeah. I guess we'll jump on a plane.
Beautiful. I'm gonna get you something booked. The plane will be leaving from Tokyo tomorrow.
From Tokyo? Okay, see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Great. I guess we're going to Canada.
Now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's go.
But he said the plane's in Tokyo.
That's not
and
here.
we're in Osaka.
That's not here.
It leaves in 8 hours.
Oh, good.
Okay, let's go.
We've arrived on the west coast of Canada in Vancouver, and we've travelled halfway across the globe to work on a Civic. I couldn't think of anyone more qualified than the godfather of VTech himself, Brian from Hassport, and he's brought his mate Aaron from VTech Academy as well to give us a hand. We're heading to the headquarters of Linus Tech Tips. Linus has been making YouTube videos for as long as we have, and along with his many talented co-hosts, is a leader of the tech genre. They happen to also like cars and have made quite a few videos on them, including this 2005 Honda Civic ES, which they modernised with some basic DIY modifications. They also painted it to stand out just a little bit, and well, we love nuggets, but we love nuggets with big engines and lots of power. So we're here to fix the lack of power and fix that automatic transmission problem.
So we have less than 72 hours to get this car completely stripped, engine converted, and a whole bunch of mods to make it work. I'm talking fuel systems, suspension, wheels, tyres, everything, because it's a nugget, let's be honest, but it's going to be a very fast and very capable nugget by the time we're finished with it. We're here with Linus at Linus Tech Tips, and I know a lot of you guys have already seen this shed before, but can you tell me what happened here?
One of our writers, Plouffe, he's the kind of guy who will spend $2,000 on a monitor and 20 bucks on his car, okay?
I'm the opposite.
Exactly. So we saw this thing in the parking lot day in, day out, and we thought, well, we wanted to do some kind of news you can use, really practical, get more out of your car in these trying economic times content. We were like, what better car than this one?
Than a Honda Civic.
Yeah, so we took the stock deck, we replaced it with something with Android Auto, we gave it a backup camera, we replaced the windows that go like this with ones that go like this. Pretty great stuff. We also deadened some of the road noise, but you know, in order to spice things up a little bit, you can see we got a little paint job here.
I actually like it. I wasn't sure what to think. When I saw it go on, I'm like, oh, I wonder. And actually, in person, I think it's kind of cool. My very first paint job looked exactly the same, for the same reason.
Really? You sprayed a primer that was too thick?
Yeah, that, and probably sprayed it when it was too cold. That's a thing as well, which it's cold because we're in Canada. How did this happen? So me and Linus have been emailing back and forth for a couple of years. Years ago when we did that Cresta build, you guys did like a sleeper PC. Looked really plain on the outside, crazy gear on the inside. And a lot of fans have been saying since then, oh, you guys have to hang out. So we made it happen. We got here, we jumped on a plane, and here we are. So we are here to help improve this Civic in the way that we know how, which is to basically go to the extreme.
Yeah, so the thing is, my first response to this email chain was, hey, but we need to make sure we control the scope.
Oh.
Basically, what I wanted was to kind of control the amount of time you guys had to spend on this thing. But I guess if you're the one doing it to yourself, then
So
have at it.
So the plan is basically as soon as we saw it, I think Ewan did a top comment in that video that was like, we'll come and K-swap it. And it got lots of likes. And then I emailed and said, well, we've threatened to do it. We actually need to do it. So that's what we're here to do. And I did bring a couple of people with me to help. And this is fun for us. And you're doing this, but it's actually fun for us.
You guys went so far out of control. I don't know what we've revealed or not revealed yet on his timeline, but not only are they putting in the new engine, we're switching to a manual transmission.
Correct.
We're putting
Full
in a new
engine
sound
management.
system. We're putting in a bunch of lighting.
Yep.
They're putting in some kind of like fancy engine control unit nonsense and a screen instead of the original dash. There's going to be almost nothing left of this thing but the shell.
I cannot wait for you to drive this. Like, it's going to be excellent. It's going to be excellent. So let's get into it.
There is no time to waste. There's about 72 hours to go before our long flight back to Sydney leaves from Vancouver Airport. We'll be using the tools that the LTT crew have available, and thanks to the skills of amazing humans who have agreed to help, so far I'm feeling confident. But that could just be the jet lag or the false sense of security that a cheap Honda Civic nugget gives you. Not that there'll be much original Civic left when we're done with it.
So we're about an hour into it, and we are making excellent progress. And it's awesome that Dave and Josh and all the Miles and all the other guys agreed to come, because you actually need the people. Because it's not like we can just, we'll just pick it up next week. Like, we have 72 hours to get it running and on a dyno, and we have a dyno appointment. And why do we do it that tight? Well, everyone have lives and they need to get around the world. So we're going to get it done. And Brian's here. So happy to see Brian again.
What?
It's so nice to see you again.
It's so good to see you.
I love hanging out with Brian. It just sucks he lives on the other side of the world, but we'll make it happen.
Miles has made an insert for the UC10 dash to go in. It fits really, really well, but there's this little plastic receptacle thing in the way which holds the dash, the factory dash, but we don't need it, and that's going to be in the way of the plug. So I'm just pulling that out so Miles can do some test fitting.
These guys really weren't kidding when they said they were going to remove everything. Like, everything's coming out, hey?
We're converting this thing to a manual, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the sloppy shifter out of here, get it out of the way so we can start doing all the wiring and getting the new shifter assembly in here from K-Tuned.
Brian got on the phone to his friends at K-Tuned, and they sent us some parts that, along with his mount kit, will help us fit our K24 into the bay of this old Civic.
So our Canada car is actually not too rusty. There's like a tiny bit on the subframe under here. Apparently they get much, much, much worse. I know some of you guys who are watching probably have cars that are extremely rusty under here. So it's actually a bit of a treat. So this exhaust will come off. It's in two pieces. We're going to yank it out. And we're nearly ready to drop the engine. So we're going to pull the engine out the front, drop the subframe down the bottom. But we've got to get the exhaust out of the way so I can unbolt the subframe.
We're doing this swap on jack stands and with basic tools. There's many ways to skin a K-swap cap, but our method is time efficiency over everything. If there's a part we can throw at it to save hours of customization or fabrication, we'll take it. And with the godfather of VTech in the room, I'm feeling pretty confident.
All right, so that is the subframe that holds the engine in. The engine's still being kept in by those two mounts that are on the top, but all our brakes and all this stuff can go away. Next step is to pull the engine out the top.
It's probably worth mentioning that at this point we don't actually have any of our K-swap parts. Brian sent them up from the USA a week earlier, but they haven't shown up, and it seems they're stuck in some importation limbo. We can't seem to get any answers as to where it is, but we're going to forge ahead anyway. And while we take care of mechanical things up front, Dave, Josh and Miles are working on some electronics and other gadgets that should add some extra sizzle to our VTech powered sausage. The tired old D17, which we're told has likely recently spun a bearing, comes out without too much fuss, just puking a small amount of fluids as a final protest.
Engine is out. Empty engine bay. This is actually where it gets exciting, I think, because look at the possibilities. It's like an empty case.
We could put anything in
You do anything you want.
Yeah, we could put electric motors and a battery in there.
Not today. Anyway, so we can clean all this up, we can get rid of a lot of other stuff, and then we can get our nice engine and go.
Yeah, one that makes good noises.
Yeah.
Yes.
And power.
And has a manual transmission.
That too.
As we clean the EV thoughts from our minds and the spills from the floor, the guys are starting to get creative with mods.
So we're going to drop the Haltech keypad in to this bit of trim here, and then we're going to put Alex's DSP controller in there, but we're going to 3D print a new, or design and 3D print a new casing for this. We're not going to remake the whole part, I don't think, but we're just going to make a panel that goes in here to hold everything. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll get this 3D scanned pretty soon here, and then hopefully we'll be able to have it all modeled and on the printer by the end of the day.
Yeah, and we can have it for tomorrow and we can slap it all in.
Yep.
So the problem that we're having is the parts that Brian sent up from the US are stuck in customs. It was on like a 3-day shipment that we sent a week ago. We thought that was plenty of time, but for whatever reason it's stuck there. We don't know, we can't get answers. So we're looking at alternatives, which might be to get either someone else's case swap that maybe they have sitting around, or a TSX or RSX, which is essentially a DC5. The chassis is, a lot of the stuff in this is shared with a DC5, so that stuff will bolt in and work, but we still need Brian's parts. We can potentially overnight them. We only got 72 hours to do the entire thing.
We're going to continue on with whatever jobs we can do in the meantime. And while that's happening, Brian's going to get on the phone and see if he can find any parts locally.
Acura RSX, I understand you have a few of them. Looking for an RSX engine, transmission, and subframe.
Automatic, standard.
Standard.
Okay, just a sec, I'll check.
Thank you.
And it's in.
Yeah, we just got a update on the FedEx. I guess our agent is not in office today, and the earliest that it can start moving is maybe tomorrow morning, but there's like no chance that we're getting it tomorrow, basically. Probably Thursday arrival.
Holy shit. And then that would be midday frickin' Thursday, so.
Yeah.
Acura RSX.
Yes, Honda Civic, we do have.
How much upfront?
You need engine and transmission?
Actually what I need is engine, transmission, subframe. I also would like all the suspension at the end of the day today, and that we could come take a look at it tomorrow morning.
If they're getting it to Savo, we're better off just diverting it to here or something, maybe. Oh, maybe not.
There's also, I forget the other company.
Okay, so we've just come down here to the Wreckers, about 5 minutes from HQ. They do have a lot of Honda stuff by the looks of it, but they may not have what we need today. So the idea is to go down here and put a face to a name and talk to them and see if they can, in fact, help us out. They've only got an auto. It's not going to be here till tomorrow, and even once it's here, we then have to make a list of what parts we want. Then it could take days to pull it apart, so not an option. The next option is a social call out, which I'm not against doing, because there might be some fans around this area that if they either don't have the bits themselves, might know who does. It's Tuesday today. I figured we wouldn't put the engine into a Wednesday anyway, so in that way it's fine. If we don't have an engine until Thursday, that starts to be a problem. But I mean, it is a bolt-in thing. Thanks to Brian's mounts, it is a bolt-in thing. It just sucks because it could be in there now, and I wish it was. But we're going to continue with everything else because there's still a lot of work to do. Dave has been doing a bunch of wiring. We'll show you that shortly. So is Josh, who is the basically USA version of Dave, which is pretty cool that he's here too. There he is. Both two smart guys. So it happens like Dave Pace X2, like it's really fast. So we're going to do a bunch of that work in advance. We're also going to move on to suspension, and we've got some tyres going onto our wheels, some Michelins. So everything else is looking good. Let's just cross our fingers that pallets show up.
Making a shifter adapter so we can turn Linus' screwdriver into a shift knob. This is the K-tune shifter. This is adjustable on a K-tune. You can able to back these two little screws out here and adjust the shifter length up and down. We're remaking this bit here so that we can fit a screwdriver. The screwdriver has a thinner shank than this does, so we need to fatten it up. But we also need a way so that we can retain it so that it doesn't just fly out mid-travel. So what we're going to do is we're basically designing up a new shaft on the screen here. And the way this is going to work is this short section here is going to come in from underneath and butt up against the bottom of this barrel here. It's going to have a small detent like you'd find on a socket. So that when it goes in, it's going to detent in and hold that in. And so there'll be a slight jerk to pull it out, and then there'll be a slight like a bit of pressure to put it back in, and then it's not going to go flying out while these pulling mad VTEC skids.
So we don't have an engine, gearbox and a heap of other parts, but we do have some clever guys in the room, and we have the K-tuned parts that didn't have to cross the border. So we're going to install anything we can find in the meantime.
So this is the coilover that we're going to put in instead of the factory stuff. The factory stuff is pretty smashed and a little bit rusty. So this is going to go in fully adjustable. K-tuned are in Canada, which is kind of cool. So this stuff got here really quick and easy, and they supplied it. It's a nice piece of kit. Is going to be able to mean we can lower the car as well, and has adjustable camber plates in the top. This has some sleeves here as well, so you can use this on an RSX, DC5, or a Civic like this, which is cool. So that's going to go in like that. Steering knuckle goes into there. It's going to be excellent. So I have a little bit of good news. That is, Brian and Alex have worked out that we might be able to get our stuff, but they'll have to go to Washington to pick it up. Sounds like it's a long way. It's in another country, but they have countries here that are connected by land. I know. So the Civic is 4-stud and comes with drum brakes. We are going to convert to 5-stud and disc brakes. That means we need different handbrake cables. It also means all this goes
in the bin,
like most of the rest of the car. And we will have new stuff to go on, which is with the stuff that Brian has sent over. So disc brakes, new handbrake cables, pretty much all this goes, and our new coilovers go in there as well.
The higher spec factory parts, along with the brand new parts, should have this Civic riding and handling better than it did when it was new. Now these particular Civics have suspension that's considered less good than the previous and the future models that came afterwards. But with the adjustability and a good setup, it should be about as good as it can be for the street and ready for some track work too.
So the end of day one, it all feels a little bit like a dream because we are awake at some weird random time, but it's actually been a beautiful day here. It's really nice hanging out with the Linus guys too. They're just like car people like us, except know more about computers and less about cars, and it's kind of the opposite. But we're having a great time. We're also making heaps of stuff, which is awesome. So Miles has actually been in the workshop back there, and you know the Heltec guys are walking and be like, "Hey, can you mount this to this?" And he's like, "Okay." And then on his computer, designing stuff up. Then the Linus guys are cutting it with a laser cutter on cardboard to make a template, which we'll then make out of aluminum. Then we'll paint it, and then it's really nice to see that teamwork. And so tomorrow we will be back into it again. We've prepped everything to get our engine. Brian's picking an engine up in the morning. Fingers crossed that will happen okay. And if it does, we're on track to have the engine in and installed tomorrow. So we've got 3 to 4 days to get it completely done, and we're on track. See you tomorrow.
All right, so we are off on a bit of an adventure. We have Alex from LTT, and whoops, I'm going the wrong way. Good morning, there we go. And we are driving off. Oh, and Aaron back there. Cheers. Yep, here present. We're heading off to Kent, Washington to pick up the engine. It did not make it through customs, and it's at a FedEx facility down there, so we're gonna go down and rescue our engine. Woohoo! They're gonna let us pick it up. Gonna get our stuff loaded in the truck on back. We'll be back to the shop in 3 hours and slap this motor in. Heck yeah. We'll have it fired up by dinner. Or not. Taxes paid, everything's legal. We out of here.
This is an exhaust we got off Facebook Marketplace. I don't think it's ever been used. Looks pretty fresh. It will be loud, I can tell you that right now. It is stainless, but it's very, very thin. And look, a Honda, wow, it's so light. A Honda with what essentially is a straight-through muffler, this thing is going to be very, very rowdy. But what's cool about it is it's brand new. The original exhaust is pretty rusty and way too small for what we're doing. And we were just lucky that we managed to find this. So we're going to throw this on. Apparently this needs to be modified. I think it needs to be like extended, or there's like the floor pan's slightly different. So I'm just going to hook it up as best I can and see what needs to happen, and then hopefully be able to borrow the Linus guys fabricating stuff to cut and shut if necessary. So let's stick it on. So the fit is not spot on because it's not actually meant for this car, but
The mount is in the right place, which is great. There's just some weird tension because I think the back of the Civic is longer. So we're going to have to probably extend the tip of the muffler. It's worth mentioning there's also like no packing in this muffler, so it's essentially a straight through exhaust. So it's going to be loud, but it's going to save us basically a day by being close. We just might have to modify it.
So all our stuff has arrived, thanks to the Brian and the Alex going down and picking it up because it was stuck in some limbo in between two countries, which are joined by land. That's the thing here.
Luckily.
Yeah. So they've gone down and picked it up, which is great. So we're here. So the car's ready. We've done as much as we can without having all this. So now the plan is to throw the engine in as quick as we can, get it all mounted up, let the wiring guys do their thing, and then just pick away at everything else. We got about 48 hours.
I want to drive this out for dinner. What do you think?
in 48 hours?
Yeah, okay.
Good, not today.
Not today.
A little bit of teamwork and some trans-international travel in a ute has put us back on track, and I could not be happier.
There it is in all its K-glory. It's almost like more exciting because it's actually here, because we had everything but the engine, and this was potentially going to fully sink the project, like go home without a card finished. But now we're good.
We're good.
Unstrap it, let's put it in the car. Can we put it straight in? Like, there's no reason we can't just drop it in, right?
Yeah, there's no reason at all.
I mean, I would take
this off simply because there's some wiring that needs to go on underneath there.
All right.
And then we can just drop it right in.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So, this is the magical mount kit that Brian's made to fit this K24 to this particular Civic. And so, anything interesting or different about these compared to other models?
It is. I mean, the thing about this is the engine and transmission have swapped sides. So, along with these mounts, there's actually brackets that go in on the frame rails as well in order to do that.
Yep.
These kits are actually. We've been making this since 2002.
The same one?
The same one.
Just works.
Yeah, it does.
And the brackets mean you don't have to weld to your rails, you have to cut your rails, all that stuff.
Bolt
so it's actually it's reversible.
It is. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why you would ever reverse it, I don't know. But
you want to sell it and save your motor for your EG or EK?
Yeah, good point. Very cool, let's chuck it in.
This is of course a K24, found in all sorts of Hondas, but this particular one is from an Odyssey. That's right, a people mover. It's 2.4 litres, has VTEC, and thanks to Brian's clever engine mounts can be jammed into just about any Honda you can think of.
What's awesome is being able to walk out of a garage directly into a machine shop with a mill, and we're going to throw this in the mill quickly and just elongate that hole because the chassis is slightly different to make this fit.
You could argue that this is the engine that saved Hondas, at least their reputation in the modification scene. The B series that came before were getting a little tired and old, and then all of a sudden, Honda started slapping these engines into everything. Well, not everything, because the Civic we're working on here came with a D series engine, but that's a whole nother story. But the K series are cheap, and you can find them at wreckers in all corners of the globe. Once people worked out that big capacity, modern design, and of course VTEC was a winning combo, and maybe mixed in some turbos or superchargers, all of a sudden that Civic lining up next to you for a race may actually give you a run for your money. Brian's Hasport engine mounts fit the engine in place with no cutting of the car required, holding it securely in place. So the engine is mounted less than an hour since we pulled it off the back of that pickup truck, which means now we can start bolting on the mods.
This is the old cable actuated throttle body. This is the electronic one. K-Tuned make it and put their own blade in there. It's a really nice looking thing. So that's going to plug into the Haltech. We're going to go electronic throttle and electronic pedal. It's a bit of an unusual pedal is that it still uses a cable, but then you mount this kind of box and it works. It's especially good for conversions. So you can also see the size difference there too. So we're going to whack this on and we'll get extra air into our mad K-swap. The shifter is ready to go in. We've run the cables from the engine in, we've got the header on, so now it's time to start putting the inside back together. There's a lot of forbidden spaghetti in here, which will need to be gone pretty much in the morning because we are getting close to being able to start this thing. We just have to do a few more things up front, but the shifter is also going to go in. And Miles has done an amazing job working with the LTT boys here to get this shifter to work. So we've got the LTT screwdriver, it's in there, it works, it is released, you can release it and take it out. But otherwise, it's the shifter.
Yeah.
And chuck it in.
We've come here not just to work on this car, but also to blend the worlds of electronics, maker culture, and DIY car mods. The LTT guys spend their time testing, modding, and reviewing tech, so we want to get some of that into this car to make it more them. And so far, it's all looking great. The whole time I've been messing with engines, mounts and suspension, Dave and Josh have been working flat out to install some of the best engine management and power distribution hardware there is. Not only to tune the engine, but to run the digital dash, lighting and power systems for the entire car, and I cannot wait to see it in action.
So from not having an engine this morning and being a little bit worried about this thing even working or ever happening and potentially just going home with no project, we made heaps of progress. The engine's mounted, we're starting on fuel system, we've got a shifter in. Miles and Dave and Josh have just been cranking it all day along with the Linus boys. So tomorrow I'm hoping that by this time it's already running. So we're going to get into it. First thing tomorrow we're going to get into it. I'm going to do some welding, fix the exhaust up. We're going to get fluids in. We're going to sort of button all that stuff up. And then it should work. Then it's all up to Dave to make it start and Josh to make it start. And then we're going to go to the dyno.
This car was an automatic from factory, and while Honda did politely leave us some small indents in the firewall for where the holes should be for the clutch, we're going to have to make our own with a drill. Then our brand new slave cylinder fits directly onto the firewall and mates up to the clutch pedal that Brian has sent up. And just like that, we are manual swapped.
So in between modifying the cars, we're talking to the Linus boys about like servers and throughput and editing because that's part of our world as well. But what I'm doing here is it's got the little adapter, which is quite clever, that goes under the rail here like that, and then you can screw your fuel pressure sensor into that. And we did bring one, the Haltech guys have one, so that means we can monitor fuel pressure. It's got a very basic fuel system. It's plenty for what we're going to do, but being able to monitor it and also use it as a safety. So if our pressure drops off, or Dave was saying the wideband would probably catch it as well. If it went lean, it'll rescue our engine.
A huge time saver is the thermostat housing, which is going to put our hoses in the correct position for our new radiator. Once that's all in, I'm going to pull off the rocker cover and install the awesome new K-tuned one. This will also give me a chance to pull out the coils and check the spark plugs. It looks like we've managed to score a donor engine that's actually been serviced throughout its life. It looks super clean in here. With a new gasket installed, the rocker cover can go on, which also comes with a bunch of extra options for breathers. Is it absolutely necessary for the swap? Not really, but it does look excellent.
So we managed to find ourselves some Castrol Edge 520. Castrol Edge is what we use in all our cars. Interestingly, 520 might look kind of thin. Guess where we are? Somewhere very cold. So a thin oil is what you need in this climate and perfect for a car like this. At home we might do a 530 or even a 540, but here this is going to be perfect. We're going to fill up our K24 right now.
So I'm currently doing the wiring for the throttle body at the moment. We're going from a cable which is on this car and a cable which I believe was on this engine to start with. We've gone to a K-tune style throttle body, and I'm just doing the plug for that at the moment. So these are running from the ECU outside of the engine loom because the engine loom does not have the necessary wiring that I need for this, which is the motor, wires, multiple 5 volts for pedal and for throttle. So it's easier for me to just run new wires from my adapter loom. Benefits of drive-by-wire, I can go on forever. Idle control, cold start, cruise control, which we're going to definitely have in this, engine protection. You can do throttle blips when you've got a sequential. I could go on for hours and hours. Probably the biggest one for this will be throttle limiting, so we can limit the amount of power that goes down through the engine to the wheels. So we can do traction control through some sort of throttle closing. We can go on forever, but drive-by-wire is mad. The other weird thing about the way that Honda does drive-by-wire in some of their cars is they use this cable to electronic pedal, APP, or accelerator pedal position, sorry. So this is a weird one. So the cable actually goes in here. The cable goes in, and then it converts that into an electronic signal. There's 2 signals in here, 2 5 volts, 2 grounds, and they all go back to the ECU and give the ECU a very, very accurate reading of where the accelerator pedal is, and then what we should do to control the throttle body itself.
With the car mere hours away from its first start, we can all start the fun part of mods and trying on strange hats.
One of the things we're doing with this car is we're switching over to RSX 5-lug suspension, and with that, we're also upgrading the brakes. Brian at Fast Brakes has sent us one of his big brake kits that uses the Willwood calipers and a giant rotor to haul this fast beast down once it gets going. K-Series means more speed, which means you need more brakes.
I'm going to pull the rear section of the exhaust off because it's just a little short because it's not on a DC5, it's on a Civic. But all I'm going to do is extend this because any other way of doing it up there is a lot more difficult. It's actually positions perfectly, it hangs really nice, it's just the bumper's longer, so I'm going to add some bit of pipe to the back here and weld it on. Alright, so in a completely different shot. These don't fit, so that's not happening. Got a TIG welder here. I hope it works. I don't even know how you even change the settings on this. Oh, it's got a pedal. I'll be right. Extendo Tipo. This gets this out the back muffler. I already cut the bumper, so now we have our basically empty rear muffler. It's going to be so freaking loud and obnoxious, but I kind of like it.
At home, with more time, supplies, materials, and sleep, making an exhaust from scratch is absolutely the right way to do this. But this tin can will point exhaust gas in the right direction, which is its only job for the moment, and as a bonus, it was pretty cheap. However, as I tighten it up, it moves around and requires even more of the rear bumper to be carved out with an air hacksaw. But once I've got it somewhere near the right spot, I'll need to modify and weld up an adapter to join this pipe to the headers. Meanwhile, it's full speed ahead on the suspension and drive shafts. The hubs have some ball joints that have been welded in for some reason, so they need to be fixed, and then we can get into fitting up all the RSX parts that will transform this Civic.
In the words of a great Canadian philosopher who once asked the question, is it too late now to say sorry? And to which another philosopher replied, what do you mean? And we have this exhaust thing. But it's gonna work. It's gonna get exhaust out the back of the car. That's its only job, because it don't fit.
Luckily for us, it's not the same story with the brake kit, which fits perfectly and looks great.
We are not far off starting this thing, but we've all got a few jobs to do, and it is getting harder. The car is beginning to fight back. The exhaust doesn't want to fit. I've seen you making some faces and making some noise with this. How you going?
Good. I had to slightly shorten the hoses because of the fact that this front end is so much closer than like an RSX.
Yeah.
So, and then put it on 3 or 4 times in order to get the hose clamps on.
So it's shorter at the front and longer at the rear. So the exhaust wouldn't fit because it's longer at the back, but this won't fit because it's shorter at the front.
It's shorter at the front.
Wow.
Yeah.
But overall, you happy with how it's all looking?
Very. Looks great. I really like the hoses they give. They're well formed.
Yep.
Even slightly too long, they don't kink. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
Works well. Works really well.
So we're going to put an intake on this shortly and sit it back there somewhere. There's a lot of space here. You could probably also go down, but we're going to put our battery at the front. It's a way that Brian's worked out to do it without you having to completely redo all your wiring.
Yeah.
So we're going to put the intake in here somewhere, put a pod on that, probably over there. We're going to run some breathers, we're going to run some ventilation and other things. And then I think it's mostly up to the wiring guys. We're having a few struggles. Actually, we're struggling with everything at the moment except wiring. Because at the front we've got ball joints that have been welded into the knuckles. So we had to get them out. We couldn't easily get new knuckles. Because if you use different knuckles, you need...
different axles. So yeah, we decided, we had RSX ones, and for whatever reasons, the ones that I had set aside didn't get sent. Some other ones got sent, so we repaired them here.
So anyway, and none of us, also worth noting, none of us have access to that normal pool of like, oh yeah, there's someone down the road that I know, or there's that store up the road that I know. Like, we're actually all out of our element here,
right?
But still making it work, and I'm pretty stoked actually with how it's coming together. So we'll go intake, let the wiring guys catch up, we'll fill it full of fluids, try and start it.
Even the camera guys are getting in on the action, with the CVs going in, the brake calipers being installed, engine wiring finalised, and mounting holes drilled for our e-throttle.
So I was asking the guys if they had some hose, just some spares lying around for our PCV and our breather. They said, yeah, we do, but it's for a server. But that's what we're using, because it's here. We don't have to go and buy it. So that's going to go and do our breathing on our intake.
While we've had our faces buried in the engine bay, to complement the early 2000s race wars Spoon Civic Honda vibes, Alex, Jake and Sebastian from LTT have been working on mounting an enormous wing. Rather than just bolt it on and stick it down, they've 3D scanned it and the boot lid and then had custom brackets made to suit the car. They've also done a stereo setup which includes a custom sub enclosure, amplifiers and a DSP system to fine-tune it to current car specs or better. The pace of all this modification is really picking up, and it seems like we just might make our deadline after all.
All right, we are getting close, people. So we are late in the day on Thursday. The dyno is Friday morning. Got to get a wheel alignment as well. Currently, we've got no coolant, gear oil, power steering fluid. The brakes need to be bled. We need to bleed the clutch as well. Miles is still working away on the front suspension. He's been stitched up today because he's had one of the hardest jobs. Davo has been making a lot of progress on wiring, as has Josh. So it's looking pretty good. I'm just now doing an idiot list because as it gets crazier and closer to the end, it's where you start to forget things and just drive it and go, oh, there's no gear oil.
We're hoping to more than double the factory power of this Civic, and these big brakes will unlock better stopping using all the available grip of the tyres. They'll also survive continuous hard braking at a track day, which this car could now absolutely take part in, especially with all the downforce it now has. Dave has finished setting up and labelling the CAN keypad, which now unlocks a bunch of functions the car never had before.
Time for our gear oil to go in, and we are very close to powering this thing up and seeing if it'll crank, see if it has oil pressure, and if it does, then we can try and start it. Cross your fingers.
All right.
We need oil pressure.
Yeah.
Hit it. So we've got like 30 pounds of oil pressure when we're cranking, which is heaps. Now it's just like, make sure every single sensor is working, make sure you've got fuel pressure. But if mechanically it's making those noises, man, we're good. It is game day. It's our final day here in Canada. The North Pole is just there. You could nearly throw a rock at it. It is freezing cold. And here's all the stuff that came out of that Civic. I can't believe how much we've achieved in not even 72 hours. All that's gone. We've K-swapped our Civic. It's been awesome hanging out with all the guys. But in about 90 minutes, we have to be at our wheel alignment and then the dyno. So we haven't even run the car yet. That's going to happen any minute, hopefully. If it runs and drives and moves under its own power, we're going to head to the dyno and see what kind of power this thing makes. And then we're going to leave on a plane.
So far, we've been lucky. Even with our parts being held up, we've managed to get this old Civic mechanically and electronically brought into the current decade. But what we haven't given ourselves is any room for error. If a part lets go, the engine won't crank, or we let some smoke out of something, we're leaving these guys a broken car, which is not what we want at all. There's a few last minute jobs to get done before we can run it. We know it cranks and has oil pressure, but there's a bunch of other sensors and calibrations to get right before we do.
Starting to run out of time. We've got exactly 32 minutes before we need to be at the wheel alignment shop. We still don't have a bonnet, wheels, suspension's not adjusted, nothing. We're running out of time. It's time for the wheels to go on. Finally, we have our Michelin Pilot Sport all-season tyres. And in my hand here, I also have a tyre pressure monitoring system that ties back to the Haltech. So we'll be able to see that on a display and also log tyre pressures and also set alarms, just like a brand new car, bringing this thing into the future, if the tyre pressure changes at all. So I'm going to wind them in the valve stem. It's worth saying as well, you can also install a version of this inside the rim if you want them permanently, but this is a quick and easy way to do it on this tyre.
Tyre pressure monitoring is often a standard feature on higher end cars. These will fire trouble codes that can be sent up to our dash that include high or low pressure, temperature high, air leaks and the sensor battery voltage. The wheels clear our big brake kit really nicely, and those Pilot Sport All Seasons will work well up here in the cold.
Let's drop it and try and start it.
So I think we're good to go. We've done a lot of checking. Josh and I spent a lot of time just double checking everything last night. I think we're good to go. We've got synchronization from at least the crank. Not quite sure what engine this is. It wasn't quite synchronizing with the camshaft, so the trigger pattern wasn't working properly last night, but we'll try and get it cranking off the crank only. We should be able to fire up. I'm not 100% sure with this engine pattern whether we can just run it off the crank, but we'll give it a try for now. We'll scope it, we'll see what the cam is on this particular engine, and then we'll try and get it to run.
Think she'll be good? I was hoping for a lot more confidence right there.
We've done our best, mate. No, I'm quietly confident. It's only if something's broken that we don't know about, but everything we've touched we think is good, including you. How you feeling, Davo?
We'll turn the injectors on.
Yeah, injectors on, let's do it. Moment of truth, people. Yes! It's alive! It sounds good, kinda.
Yeah, that started up easier than like every other car I've ever been in.
Amazing. These guys, man. Woo! Oh, that was crispy. Wow. All right, good. Dyno wheel alignment, let's do it.
The bonnet is going to need a little massage with a grinder to clear the power steering pulley, but with that done it can be reinstalled. With a final check of important things like wheel nuts and underglow, we can drop it off the jack stands and roll it out the door. The alignment is completely cooked, but that's something we'll be able to fix at our next stop, which is the wheel alignment shop, which is just a few kilometres up the road.
I actually think it looks excellent. Like it's your 2002 dream, right? Except fast as.
Oh, a little less chrome.
A little less chrome than 2002. But here it is.
Yeah.
Where do we want to go?
Yep.
Want to go?
There.
Cool.
3, 2, 1. First drive. Let's go get a wheel alignment. Away we go. Oh, it's loud. It's very loud. Whoa. It kind of drives like this. Wow. So our coolant temperature is very, very high, which sometimes happens because these things kind of need to burp. So we're gonna have to get out, work out what's going on, burp the cooling system. We made it a little way down the road. So we made it about 400 meters. Here we go. I'm watching the temperature really closely. It's sitting at like 90. I have a feeling we still have an airlock, but it's not rocketing up like it did before. So just cross your fingers. I don't want to be stuck in traffic with a crazy airlock and a lot of overheating.
Luckily for us, the wheel alignment shop was only a short way down the road, and it looked like the Civic was going to be able to limp its way there.
We made it. Got to drop the keys off. I think we hit lunchtime, so I don't know how long this is going to take, but I asked them just to please squeeze us through, and they're going to do it. Now, luckily for us, they have the right kind of cars here. I'm seeing a cool pickup truck. I'm seeing a Daihatsu Hijet. I'm seeing some cool stuff. We're in the right place.
The guys at the alignment shop were fans of the show, and so I did my best impersonation of a Civic owner and enthusiastically popped the bonnet to prove to them that my car doesn't suck anymore because we engine swapped it. They agreed to do a quick alignment to get the car driving straight and a tiny bit more level, so we could then rush over to the dyno at Stratified Automotive, which was also just down the road. Although less bad than before, we are still chasing this annoying airlock. We're going to jack up the front of the car as high as we can get it and then slowly feed it water in an attempt to push any air pockets up and out.
So we're just trying to get the thing to burp. It's definitely airlocked. Maybe the thermostat's not opening. The thermostat needs warm water to know to open and then let it through the cooling system. That's so that your heater will heat up quickly, and in Canada that's important. But right now it's messing with us because we have an airlock, so we need to fix that. We can't dyno it.
After boiling over 1 or 2 more times, eventually the cooling system burped and the temperature stayed stable at 90 degrees, which is perfect. So now it's time to get it loaded onto the dyno. We've pumped out all the old fuel and we're going to fill it up with the highest octane fuel you can get at the pump here in Vancouver. The Civic is in some good company here at Stratified, but enough looking at those, it's time to focus on the dyno and get this thing tuned in an attempt to double our power.
We've made it. 2.5 days, I think, to get to this point. We're actually making good time. There's been a few things that have been like problems, like stuff leaking out. There was a hose clamp that wasn't right on the heater. There's noises in the front, that's stuff wearing in and wearing out and smoke everywhere, but nothing really out of the ordinary. It's been great. Awesome having Josh and Dave here to sort of help with all that, especially being that we've rewired the entire car. So power ons, we're pretty confident the base map's going to be pretty close because K24s, NA are kind of all the same. So we reckon we're aiming for about 200 horsepower. It's a Mustang style dyno. It's a bit different to what we have at home. So though it might change the numbers a little bit, but that's what we're aiming for. If we get anywhere up near 200, that is a good day. And remembering the car made 85 or 89 when it was stock and automatic and had a 1.7 litre. So that's a pretty massive change considering we haven't added any turbos. You ready, Josh?
I'm ready.
It's your time.
It's time to shine.
How many K24s have you tuned?
A handful.
Many?
Yeah.
Enough?
Enough.
All right, you're feeling confident. How many runs do you reckon it's going to take to get it dialed in?
5, 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
That's quick. Yeah. And what's the number going to be?
186.
Oh, I said 170 something. I think Alex said 190 something.
Yeah.
So we're all in the ballpark. All right, let's do it.
All right, awesome. Let's go.
Keep the noise down. They keep the noise down. Thanks, man.
Not gonna do it.
Everything's still loud.
So this is it, our first power run. We're looking to at least double the power that this car originally had, but the final power figure will mostly be a function of when VTEC kicks in, which thanks to our Haltech we can control. Now normally we'd cut the music out and let you hear the song of the engine's people, but today is not that day, for reasons you will soon discover.
My ears are bleeding. Even through earplugs, it's like you feel it in your whole body. Wow, we're gonna be apologizing to the neighbors, I think. How are your ears, fellas?
Jesus. I gotta.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that.
Do you want some earplugs?
Yeah.
It's got to be 180. It's got to be. $177.9.
Ah! We're gonna get there.
177.9. We need 180. No, we need 178.
We need 178.
We need 178. We're at 177.9. We don't need it. The car's fine, but it would just be great to double it.
Yeah.
We are at the mercy of the Honda gods. There's no turbo to come and save us, but we only need a tiny bit more power to hit our target.
We're good. I think we're good.
Yes, we did it!
Success. We made the power. We did it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everybody. We're there, double the power. That's pretty good. All right, we've made the power figure. It's time to go for a drive, but I do have someone to pick up and show.
The look on his face, plus the fact that they won't let me see it yet.
It's great. It's great.
This really came
Okay.
down to the wire, hey?
Oh, yeah. Some things did, but we're okay.
We did kind of need that half day that we spent going down to Washington. It was kind of more like a day that we lost.
Yeah, that's true.
25% of the time.
Cool.
So it's a bit loud.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the goal? I thought that's what you people like.
There's loud.
There's loud and then there's like
All right.
Interrupt the shoot every time he arrives at work early.
jet taking off loud. But it's a Honda, so it sounds amazing, right? That's how it works?
Maybe just give her a rev.
Is that even street legal?
No, not at all. But this is the only exhaust we could find. You might have to invest in another one if you want your shoots quiet.
Look, if your whole thing was that when you rev your car, you want to draw a crowd,
People love cars, man.
this is the way to do it, I guess. Okay. Has Plouffe seen it yet?
No.
You can log into your ECU that's controlling the whole car via Wi-Fi on an app or your laptop, tune it from outside the car if you want to, increase horsepower, decrease horsepower, do a whole bunch of things. There's a couple of other little surprises in there that all runs, but it's like, all that runs the car is absolutely worth multiple times the value of the car.
Did we figure out the multiplier?
Total?
Yeah.
No, you probably should. I'll have to think about it. It's a lot though.
Yeah, it's a
Do you have any? I have no idea.
No clue.
You're not really supposed to think about that stuff when you do cars.
God!
Yeah, some clearancing was required here.
Yeah,
But
I guess the file was not in the time budget.
just an angle grinder with Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it fits really well. The mounting kit works great. It sits in a really good spot. Aside from that, you don't have to change that much other stuff. Nothing else really has been cut up. And like that motor is huge for this car. 2.4 litres used to be 1.7.
Yeah.
Big intake. Like power-wise, we're over double.
Was an absolute pleasure, actually, all of you guys. Thank you very much, you guys. Absolutely incredible to meet you all, and this is mind-blowing
considering what you guys did in such a short amount of time. This is like a whole new car, which was our goal when we set out to modernize this thing.
This is about as modernized as you're going to get an old Civic. Absolutely.
Incredible.
Pretty cool. Thanks for having us. That was fun.
What kind of RPM?
And now give it a bit more of a rip. There it goes. The lights come on here, VTEC. It's cool, man.
Oh, what an absolute shitbox, and yet it's...
Yeah, but shitbox in the best possible way. This is what it's all about.
And there you have it, one of the most intense builds completed in just a few days on the other side of the world with a bunch of like-minded people. It doesn't matter if it's a supercar or a Civic, that is my idea of a good time.
Well done, Martin. That was
Thanks,
freaking
man.
huge, dude, and looked like a lot of fun too.
It was very fun. How was the rest of your Japan trip?
Japan was great. I'll show you what went down there very, very soon. But for now, there's something I'd really like to do. Well, I wouldn't, but I feel like it's the polite thing to do. Let's talk about Hondas, Martin. Have you had any philosophical uncoverings?
Purple people eat a Honda. You know what? Traveling to the other side of the world to K-swap a Honda sounds a bit ridiculous, but why? But what I realised when I was there, the people that love Hondas, like the Bryans of the world and the Aarons, and I'm really coming around to them a little bit, because as much as they get bagged out for being, oh, that's slow, that's boring, automatic, asthmatic, 85, 89 horsepower, just nothing really going for it except transport, right? And then you chuck some RSX, whatever it is, Honda Integra parts at it, a K24, which is cheap anyway, some mounts and some Haltech gear, and that's a proper car that you can take to a track and thrash all day. You can take it to a meet, it's gonna turn some heads, good or bad, whatever you think about styling, it's gonna turn some heads. And it's just a fun experience doing it. And as always, spending time with those dudes and piecing the car together was a really good time.
I think the thing is, and you just said something really important, that is, does it seem kind of silly to go to the other side of the world and build a car? Some people go to the other side of the world and drink a cocktail.
That's true.
They just sit there. They take a few photos on their iPhone, they drink a cocktail, they look at what the 3 best tourist things are to do, and then they go back home again. And certainly the experience that you've had is obviously much greater than that. I wish I could have come too, but I was busy doing other things, as you'll see. But the thing is, you had a great time, you met new people. Lots of people have been saying they wanted to see like an MCM Linus thing happen at some point. It's difficult when you're on the other side of the planet to each other. But it actually happened, which is great. There's a car that's better for it, and maybe it's one less Honda that we have to do here.
And for the full YouTube-ness of it, collaborations, I mean, we collaborated with Roadkill back in the day, and Donut, Hoonigan, a few other people that have come by. Always really nice to meet new people that are doing a similar thing to what we're doing. And in a way, the techness of what they do is very dissimilar, because it's not cars at all, but sometimes they do some car stuff. We talk about tech sometimes, we're doing laptops and wiring and all those kind of things. How does it happen? I don't really know, but it ended up being a really, really rich experience, and really interesting to see the way those guys operate as well, and how they sort of run everything and keep this alive, because keeping a YouTube channel alive is a big job. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of heart and energy. And it was great to see that they're putting, all the guys I met were just putting, and girls were putting in heaps of themselves into trying to make stuff that's really entertaining and interesting, which is always what we're going for. And the car worked, which was great. It looked like it wasn't going to. It looked like we weren't even going to get the parts to begin with. What you saw is just what happened, and turned out as a really good result in just a couple of days. I think there's 3 and a bit days maybe by the end. And then we were gone. That's it. We were just out of there on a plane at like 10:30 at night.
And that's full testament also to your experience with cars and also the people that you're working with as well. I think you made an important point though, that a lot of people just look at YouTube like it's this kind of ever-giving fountain of cool stuff, but behind each of those cool videos, someone's got to come up with an idea. It used to be that ideas were king. Ideas are kind of cheap. Everyone's got ideas. I think actually making the idea into something that's what takes a bit of discipline. And the thing is that with a channel like his or a channel like ours, if you think about how much challenge there would be to maybe make one video that's entertaining and then do that again and do that 50 to 100 times a year and then do that for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, like there is a lot of effort just in the sustainability of that, I think, and that's something that I think any channel that's been around for 5+ years would know what that slog is like. And to keep it fun and keep enjoying it, it's a tricky balance, but one that certainly I'm still enjoying. And I think meeting other people that are doing similar things to us in a similar kind of scale, I think is always really interesting.
Absolutely. And I remember saying, I was talking to Linus later in the day at one point, and he said, oh, how many videos, man? I said, we make 800, 700, 800. He's like 7,000. Like that's a lot of videos in a similar amount of time that we've been also operating. Anyway, it was a really good experience.
Is that the digital equivalent of doing that?
Oh, I think it was just the rate of doing tech videos basically every day. And we are doing a video roughly once a week, sometimes twice a week. Cars take a while. It'd be nice to be able to fully do a case swap in less than 8 hours, and I would accept that challenge if that challenge came up, but I hope not. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on this journey. If you haven't seen our channel before, welcome. This is kind of what we do, this sort of stuff, all sorts of different cars. I hope you enjoyed it. Had a really good time, really good experience, made some friends. Hopefully some of those guys will come out to Australia one day. We can show them around and get them in on some other shenanigans.
So what's coming up on our channel? Well, we got some Nissan stuff happening. There's some turbo things happening. There's some Subaru things happening.
Rotary things.
There's some Daihatsu things happening. There's some Mazda things happening. There's some Australian stuff happening, and some American stuff happening, plus a couple of international adventures on the horizon. So we might be coming to a town near you at some point soon. Anyway, that's Marty. I'm Moog. How you doing?
Good on you, man.
This is Mighty Car Mods. See you soon for more automotive shenanigans. Let's get some food. What do they eat in Canada, by the way?
Poutine.
Did you get a poutine?
No, I didn't get poutine, but all the food I had was so good.
Isn't it poutine? That's like cheese curd and chips, right?
Yeah, it's the curds I'm eating to, but the rest of it's really good, man. Like all cheesy and melty.